Traditional education is education where the teacher stood in the front, very often with a chalk, on a chalkboard, writing notes, and the student in their desk copying what the teacher wrote, going home, memorizing it, coming back the next day and writing an exam. Modern education takes a different approach. Modern education not only teaches knowledge, but it also teaches children skills. Modern education is student-centered rather than teacher-centered. We look at the children in the classroom, we do an assessment of where they're currently at, discover where their needs are, and then develop lesson plans to support them in developing their skills to the best of their ability. We ask them to explore material, to discover, to analyze the data that they've acquired, and to make decisions. In summary, traditional education asks the students to learn through memorization and to impart information that they've learned. Mapleberry education is student-centered. It asks them to be creative and to use the skills that we teach them in practical ways. It's focused on developing those skills, and it asks them to be critical thinkers and problem solvers. When you were hired, what was your employer looking for? When I was first hired, and people of my generation, the employer wanted someone coming out of school who knew the current software, who knew the current program, could go into a classroom or a doctor's office or a nursing station and do the job. Today, what are employers looking for when they're hiring people? What employers are looking for today is someone who can learn their system, can learn their software, can take problems that they have, can analyze those situations, can apply solutions, and can be independent thinkers. Technology has developed so quickly and continues to develop so quickly. No one they hire can be put into a desk and do the job from university or from another job. They're expecting employees to have the skills necessary. What will employers be looking for when your children are being hired? It's the role of Mapleberry to give them as a broad foundation as possible the necessary higher level thinking skills possible that they can use to fit into that new reality. The question is there a place in our classrooms for traditional education and modern education? And the answer is yes.
E a resposta é que sim.
Because in our classrooms in this school, in our classrooms throughout Mapleberry schools around the world, teachers do stand in front of students and give whole class instruction. The difference is we don't stop there.
You don't?
We then follow up with looking at how the students have accepted that information, how they can apply it, how they can discover and use that information, how they can analyze information based on their current knowledge and use the higher order thinking skill. Research has given us many things. That's the reason for the great advancements in our society based on research. And the same thing is true in education. We know how a child's brain develops. So let's summarize.
Resumindo.
In traditional teaching, we would teach the basic skills.
Na educação tradicional, nós vamos ensinar as habilidades básicas.
In Mapleberry teaching, we teach the big ideas in order for the children to acquire the basic skills. In traditional teaching, we all had a book, we read it, we learned it, and we wrote a test on it, and do what they're told and learn. In modern Mapleberry teaching, we treat students as active recipients and learners of their own information, being able to apply that knowledge to novel ideas. Classroom, we teach the children cooperation skills and ask them to work in groups so they can learn from each other. And assessment was done primarily by tests in the traditional school. And in the Mapleberry school, we watch the children working, identify what they're able to do, and acquire the information for our next lesson based on what they're currently able to do. I'm saying that because you have young children. This is a young school. When they're in the older elementary grades, when they're in middle school, and when they're in high school, they have paper pencil tests. As I said, I've had the privilege of working with your children this week. And one of my specialty areas is mathematics. And I was teaching your children, how to add, subtract, and multiply using base 10 blocks. Maybe they came home and talked to you. This strange white-haired guy was in my classroom today teaching me with blocks, where I was asking questions of the students. Okay, so what do I do with these? What do I do with these? Guys, what do I do with these? Yes.
Exchange for 2 10.
Wonderful. I take my 21s and I exchange it for 2 10s. And now I have all of these. What's the next step? What's the next step in your thinking?
10 to 1.
How many of these?
10.
Can you show me? And what would you like to do? You want to ask the banker what? You want to change 10 10s for 1 100? Here you go. Where would you put it? A good job. Now, how many do I have here?
8. 8. 8.
Mas aos alunos.
I didn't tell them what to do.
Ele não disse aos alunos o que era para fazer.
When we were in school, we were told what to do.
Quando nós
What we're doing with children now is asking questions to develop their higher level thinking skills. I remember sitting in a grade 4 classroom. My desk was beside the window, and the teacher was doing what the teacher usually did and just kept talking. And all I was doing was looking out at the baseball field, wishing it was recess.
e tudo que ele
Our hope is that the children want to be in our classrooms, so we try to create an environment that's welcoming and enjoyable. And we want them to feel confident about themselves and their ability and have a positive self-esteem. The World Economic Forum is a global organization that analyzes education around the world and has identified some 5 specific skills that they believe students need to do well. And they're here. Critical thinking,
pensamento crítico
complex problem solving,
ou a solução de problemas complexos,
the ability to be creative,
habilidade de ser criativo,
the ability to work with others,
habilidade de trabalhar com outras pessoas
and to be digitally literate,
e de ser ativo digital.
all of which are the higher order thinking skills. The issue with this is it all takes time. So we could have the children in desks and we could give them the knowledge, we could have them give it back to us much quicker than having them learn all of these skills. And we also know what children are able to learn at what grade level now. And that helps us target our programming. If you go to the various universities, they will tell you and give you lists of teaching methods. Here's a list of 150.
Essa tem 150.
And there's an equally large list of instructional strategies, how teachers can teach. The Maple Bear program focuses on the students. And when I say the Maple Bear program, I mean school programming across Canada. Canadian education is known around the world for being a solid educational system, and we've done very well on the PISA tests and other universal exams. And the examples I've been giving you and the explanation I have been giving you focuses on the gradual release of responsibility. It starts with I do as the teacher, and then we do,
E depois
the
nós.
students and I. In the video, you saw the we do, where the students and I were working together. Prior to that, I showed the children the process of using base 10 blocks to multiply. What we did after that time is I gave the students questions, I gave them the base 10 blocks, and I said, show me.
Nós, treino.
So they worked in a group to analyze the situation and create the solution. And as I went around the room and I saw the groups working, they would say, I have the answer, so I would go over. And I would ask them, do you all agree? One of the problems with doing group work is one person says, I know the answer, so I'm going to do the work, you can all sit there. So teachers have strategies to make sure that one student doesn't dominate the group. The I do is where the teacher models and the students observe. Then we ask the students to work in groups to help each other and support their learning.
Então, nós pedimos aos alunos que trabalhem em grupos para desenvolver essa aprendizagem.
And finally, we ask the students to demonstrate it by themselves. And that's assessment. If the child can demonstrate that they can do the task, we know that they have 100%. This also helps us work in differentiation within our classrooms. Children learn at different rates, at different times, in different ways. Part of our assessment is to determine what way does a child learn best. And in our instruction, we will say the same thing and share the same skill for the auditory child, the visual child, and the kinesthetic child, the hands-on. We also use what's called objective-based education. And I have shared this with every teacher in grade 1, 2, and 3, because I'm not working with the early years children at this time. And you should be able to go home if you have a child in grade 1, 2, and 3, and ask them, what is the I can statement for today? One of the I can statements we used today was, I can subtract numbers using these pictures. Another one we used today was, I can raise my hand before I speak.
Outro bem legal que eles trabalharam foi, eu consigo levantar minha mão antes de eu falar.
So we can use this for behavioral objectives as well as cognitive objectives. The second really important thing I shared with the teachers this week is choice. If I'm doing a circle activity and I'm reading them a story, and the children can be sitting in rows, or they could be sitting in a circle, it doesn't make any difference. So I have the book and I'm reading the book,
Ele tem o livro, tá lendo o livro.
and I notice that you're fidgeting. You just can't sit. But I'm okay with fidgeting.
Mateus.
Com certeza, minha filha.
I'm perfectly fine with fidgeting. Some kids just need to move.
Muito inteligente.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Não tem nada de errado com isso.
But if you start poking your neighbor, or you start talking to a friend, then you've gone too far. Can you do that? Yes, sir. Okay. So I continue with the story.
Ele continua com a história.
And then you're having difficulty and you start talking or poking your neighbor again. And I will say, you have a choice. You can sit here and listen carefully, or you can go to a chair and sit at a desk and listen. What would you like to do? I want to sit here, sir.
Okay.
And I'll continue reading the story.
E a letra continua.
But if you continue to poke, I'm going to turn to you and say, you're having some difficulty today. Would you please go sit at the back table and pay attention? And when you're ready, we can bring you back to the circle. I didn't say, I spoke to you 3 times. Do what I'm telling you to do. Who has responsibility? You see, by asking the student, what are you supposed to do? I'm not responsible anymore.
Você não é o responsável, né?
You are. You're responsible for your choices. By giving you a choice, you're accepting responsibility for your actions. But if you're not quite ready yet, we'll help you to think about it, and then you can come back when you are ready.
Mas
We give kids choice for behavior, we give them choice for their academic. Naval Bear is a bilingual program, and we're very proud of that. And there are a number of bilingual programs around the world. And what it really means is we teach in English, we don't teach English. It would be quicker to have the children sit in rows and show them pictures and give them the English words and force them to learn and memorize. It's much more effective for them to internalize English if they learn it in an immersion environment. You are a critical part of the educational system.
vocês são uma parte crucial, crítica no sistema educacional.
It's only with the parents working with the school and the school working with the parents that we can have the best education for your children. We want to partner with you as your child develops. Do you have any questions?
E agora eu gostaria de saber se